All right, Sarah. So I'd love to hear your experience.
Oh my God, I'm like bubbling over. I have such an amazing feeling in my body right now. Okay. So, and I'm just realizing like there's so much of it that's abstract that I'm not going to be able to put like human words because I was in another planet. I was somewhere else. Like if I wasn't in another planet, I'd be really surprised. It was like being in a psychedelic space. There were so many things that I don't know how to describe or what they were. And I realized that when you had us go into the light, like it took me so long to get through it, but it's because I was from underwater. The perspective was looking up at light above me, and I was already in a water space. And I couldn't really focus on what I looked like because I was so taken by my surroundings and what everything around me was so mysterious. And I started to question, and I felt my analytical mind kicking in of like, am I at the bottom of the ocean where we don't know what things look like? Like it was so like I don't even know. Like I said, I don't have descriptive words, but like it was insane. And I was like, I don't do drugs anymore, so why am I tripping right now? Like there were so many things that don't compute to our current world. And so then I started thinking, maybe it's an underwater place in another planet, and that's I guess that's obviously possible. Yeah, so it was really cool, and the beings that I was seeing throughout were creatures that I've never seen here, so it was super cool. I don't even know if we should call them creatures, but yeah. And when it ended, it became like at the end of the life part, it just became even more insane. Like, yeah, it was all energetic stuff, but there was definite visuals. And I was just so surprised by how visual this was compared to last session I had with you, where I was underwater again and having like this whole life. But the whole, like, when we went to our home was deep in an underwater cave cavern thing. And there wasn't a lot of like, I wasn't getting a lot of specifics. The way I did before where I could visually see things, it was like I was there this time. Like I was in it. Like I was feeling it more than seeing it. So there were some visuals when I would try to tap into that, but it was more like the feeling of being there. And I was getting crazy sensations in my body that I had that were, it semi distracted me, but only because it really felt like I was about to pop out of my body, Ava. Like my
Wow.
something was tugging at me. Like my hands were coming up out. I really felt like I was about to go astral project from that. It was amazing. I was like,
Wow.
what? This is way more than I expected. And so when we did the guide part, it was clearly, and this was another, you know, alignment with another exercise I did with you in one of the things that Sierra and Carrie did, where they took us, you know, to meet our guide. It was a really similar being, but it was female this time instead of a male. And it was a big, huge Andromedan blue being with like these cool things coming out the side of its head, coming straight out, sort of like how fairy ears kind of project outward and down. Like, so, yeah, it was really, really pretty. And her name was Artemis. And so, of course, once I started journaling, I had to stop and like Google because I knew the name through Greek mythology, but I had to be like, okay, is this a goddess or a god, and what are they in? And I totally scribbled a note in there that she told me her name was Artemis, and it was familiar in the space when I was there, but when I looked it up, it said she's the Greek goddess of the hunt, wilderness, wild animals, nature, vegetation, childbirth, care of children, and chastity, which I resonate so heavy with all of that except for chastity.
Definitely.
And so she was incredible looking. This is my note now, and gifted me a key, which she said was to unshackle myself, impose chains, so I could release my emotions and then step into my highest version, which is like it already answers a bunch of the questions I had written down. Like, yeah. And it's funny because I have felt for like several months. I even stopped taking a lot of the supplements I was taking, thinking that it was inhibiting, like that. I still know that I have trapped emotions that I honestly have felt disconnected from even the ability to cry. And I don't know if that's because of like I'm in a Kundalini space where that's not necessary or what the hell's going on, but like it's not that I can't, it's just I don't get a big release like I used to. I don't seem to have access to that. And so I'm just been trying to trust, that that's unfolding in the way it needs to. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have to share. But yeah, that was fucking crazy and cool. And like, I don't need drugs anymore. I just need BQH and like
Oh
hypnosis.
my, yes. Well, thank you for sharing that incredible experience. And honestly, like, even how you were saying that you started off like underwater, I'm not sure if you were, I know you mentioned you couldn't really take a look at your body, but like, did you get a sense of like maybe what size you are? Like, did it feel like human or maybe like whale-like? And
It was
it's just
not human.
not, and it's just so
No.
interesting because at the beginning of this, we were literally talking about Mintaka, which
Uh
was a
huh.
water planet.
Yes. And so is Sirius B. And I thought just now, like, connected that. Yeah. But I also had a dream last night, as you know, of like I was taken by a formless ship, and I have like lost time from the dream. So yeah,
Wow.
interesting. And it was at water, like the ship landed over water and dropped down like 7 orbs. Specifically, I was given that number to bring back into my awake life. Like that was a significant part. Yeah. Which seven's, like I said, the Pleiadian sister stars, the cluster of stars is 7. Yeah.
Yes. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Wow. Okay. Does
I
anyone
know, right? I'm muting
that
myself.
you're
Just
incredible, Sarah. You
just
are
processing.
incredible.
You are. Thanks, Ava.
You
I love you guys. Fucking you are.
I'll go
Oh,
next.
yay.
Yeah, so of course, not surprised. Definitely some similarities with Sarah, some psychedelic things running throughout, but the first part though, the past life regression was really like cut and dry, like medieval night times. Like I was a knight, a male, and then all through his life and like lived to be an old man in a castle, like surrounded by granddaughters and family, and like talking about how it's crazy for a knight to live till he's old. It was very strange, but there's also like psychedelic things that were right. So even though that seemed like really, I don't know, sort of simple, there was also like psychedelic things like the horses had this really purple, shiny, holographic armor, and the people did too, but the horses specifically was like really ornate and pretty, and they had like unicorn horns coming off of the armor. It was crazy. Um,
Wow.
and that was the past life. Yeah, it was really, really detailed. But then the spirit guide went off the rails, and I was just in this void of sorts, and the guide, it was like once again like that purpley iridescent holographic shiny color slash texture, but the spirit guide itself was just like a spiky shape. Like it didn't really have a form. It was very interesting. And the name that was coming up for me was like Arun or Arone. And it had a masculine energy to it. And then, so
Mm.
at first it was, but I wasn't scared, but it was like, okay, what? Well, this is not something I've ever seen before. And then the gift was a blue feather in a box. And I'm like, why? And then I was really surprised because even though it was this like really crazy unrecognizable form, it was really really silly, and like the message was that of joy. And when I asked what the feather was for, they were just like, I don't know, because it tickles, and then like tickled me under the chin with the feather, and I'm just like, okay. So that whole thing was just like a message of silliness and joy, and that was that I got.
And honestly, I love that because even like when you think of, for example, like children, right? Since we
Mhm.
were talking earlier about the inner child,
Yeah,
that's the epitome of
totally.
enjoying it, just being silly, having fun. Um, so like just a reminder just to like tap into that. So that's really amazing. Now,
That's what I
um,
took it as too.
do you did any of you recognize anyone from the past life in your current life?
I thought I was maybe getting like glimpses of my cousin who is the person that I lost recently. Coming up on a year of that. So it's on my mind. And I just sort of my logic mind says, well, he's just on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
There was at one point though in the when I was like doing night stuff and we were like in this kind of stone rubble. I remember being like on the edge and it was really high up and there was another knight and it looked like my cousin and
Mm-hmm.
we were scared.
Okay. Do you any like and anyone can jump in, but like even with just that first regression, did anyone find elements of a message that like made sense to them in their current life? Or
Um,
did it leave you with more questions?
I will say that for my regression, it's funny because I think I was like a monk in a church, which is funny because recently I've started going to this church recently. And I really like it because it's not really like you don't have to believe like, oh, we're all sinners and it's a really different kind of church based on the metaphysical lessons of like Christianity, which is really cool. So I was thinking about it. I was like, oh shit, that's the connection to my today life.
Okay, and how was your experience, by the way? Do you want to share any part of it? Whether it was the guide or the past life as the monk?
Yeah, I don't, as a monk, I was like kind of confused. I was like, what am I doing here? Why am I a monk? But I was
Mm-hmm.
aware that the gift that I received from my guide was a key as well. And it was like
Wow.
really nice key. And that I got was like, oh no, like I was like, okay, so what the hell does this key mean? And then they were all like, well, the key is like you are the key here. Everything that you want to be, that you are, that you envision yourself to be, you are the key to it. I was like, okay. And then the lesson or the other message was like, keep connecting to your higher self.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think because I've tried twice connecting to my higher self really recently, and both times they've been a few minutes each time, but still very informative. So I think that was like my lesson to keep going with that.
Yes, definitely. Um, all right. So if anyone needs to use the restroom, feel free to do so. Because we're gonna start another visualization, which is where we're gonna go either 100, 200, or 300 years into the future. And then after we do that, we're really gonna dive into your intention for today and get those questions answered, see what is relevant for you to experience, and connect with your higher self. And also, if anyone, like you mentioned, also, you're trying to establish this connection. So, we're going to figure out how we can consciously do this. Sometimes we're just hard on ourselves. We're doing it without realizing, or we're overthinking, or, what signs can we pay attention to? So, we're definitely going to dive deeper into how we can do this practically, consciously, as well as, of course, get the answers and the healing that we so love to experience. So, and I want to thank you so much for being a part of this tonight.
No, thank you, Ava. I'm so glad that you included me. I just love it, and it's so good to be here with the four of us. It's like I don't know. I felt like I was tapping into everyone else's energy, and I find it so interesting that Kathy and I both got keys. And when I heard her what her guide said, I realized that my guide also said you're the key. The key's been within you. Like, you didn't need me to give this to you. This is just a reminder that like you hold the key. And I'm like, oh, and I totally forgot that part and didn't write it down. So thank you, Kathy, for sharing space with me again and for reminding me of that. And then Megan's spiky thing reminded me that one of the interesting beings I saw at the other space was a huge spiky thing. So I also saw that. So yeah, it was really good. I love the share aspect because it kind of nudges me. And it was so it was so incredible that it's hard to actually like recount every single thing. And I was thinking that too when I was coming out, like, am I going to remember all that? Because like, how do I even describe it? So yeah, just thank you all. And I love you all. I'm going to go.
Do you want to share anything?
Yeah, I'll quickly share. So I was debating between either the 100 years or the 300 years. I was like, damn, 300. I was like, no, I think my heart is going to the 100. So I chose the 100-year door. It felt like I entered this community where it was like, it was not, it was a community where we lived among very tall trees, but it wasn't, again, this was in the future. So I was like light skin and a different person, but a woman still, but we were in a community that lived amongst nature, amongst tall trees. And it felt like, yeah, we just like lived within nature. We were a community and our houses were in the trees too. And I felt like I was a community leader, like guiding, oh, this is what we need to do today. This is the resources or whatever. And then meditation took me like to a very important day. And that important day, there was a fire. So there's a fire in our community, and we were like running away to escape, and not everybody escaped. And so the next day, we were like having a ceremony for those people that died, and again, and there came a time where I was speaking to them, to like kind of a large crowd, of how like we needed to rebuild, but rebuild it so something like this doesn't happen again. And then my last day, I was like in my house or something, but like the community was everybody was outside, like just hanging on to like my last breath. So I had people inside and the community was like outside, just like waiting for me. They all knew I was passing away. But yeah,
Wow. So you had like a very important role in that lifetime. You're very loved.
it felt
Um,
like it. Yeah.
um, do you recall like what the ceremonies were that you were doing in that lifetime? Was it very specific? Um,
It wasn't
ceremony?
like, it wasn't so much of a ceremony. It was like more like my position was like working with others in the community about guiding what we needed to do. Oh, we need to build this, we need these resources. But I wasn't like in charge, but I did have that role among them and with them.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Really interesting. And I love the whole nature aspect of it as well. Um, that is really cool. What about you, Meg? Is there anything that you would like to share about your experience? And thank you so much, Kathy, for sharing that.
Yeah, definitely some similarities to Kathy's as well, but I went 300, which is funny because I was also torn between 100 and 300 years. So I'm glad you
Mhm.
went with 100 and I went with 300. Um, Once again, there was just like this purple blue glow to everything, like phosphorescence. We lived underground. The community was definitely like underground of sorts, and everything kind of gave off that phosphorescence glow.
Mhm.
And it was also a very like nature based, also like sort of like mycelium, like mushrooms underground is
Mhm.
what we were. And I think that we were like descended from humans. It was very human form, but we had, evolved since we were underground. And I also wasn't like the main person in charge, but I remember seeing like being in like a council, like a council chamber with like elders and stuff, and they were like saying what we needed to do. And I was just kind of there watching. And then
Mhm.
on my last day, it was I was not very old. Something happened suddenly, but I can't remember what it was, but it was just like me and the person that I loved, but I wasn't like scared or anything. It was peaceful, even though it seemed to be really sudden and possibly like violent. But I'm not
Oh
sure quite what.
my.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Wow.
yeah.
Okay. So that one was left you with a little cliffhanger.
But nothing, yeah, but like I don't get like a trauma vibe. Like whatever it
Mhm.
was like, okay, well that happened. It's okay.
Yeah.
Love you, bye.
Mhm. Wow.
I think I may have fallen asleep a little bit. It was so
Oh,
soothing. I'm not quite remembering everything. It feels like I might have gotten pulled away, but I'm such an
mhm.
intense dreamer. I always
Mhm.
have been. I really have a feeling it's it's gonna come to me tonight. I really do.
Definitely. And especially as, this window, this door is going to be open for the next 3 days, whether it's in a dream or a you want to do meditation or visualization, you can definitely ask for that to come through. And I would love to hear what does come through for you. So you feel like you fell asleep?
I think I might have.
Oh, no worries.
I feel very, very restful. Man, your voice is very soothing. So thank you.
No, thank you. And what about you, Kathy?
Yeah, I can share a little bit. I feel like it showed me it showed me like my alternate or like the reason I'm in Portland. Like I've had other meditations to show me why I'm in Portland. Has to do with like planning the ley lines or whatever. But I got like one piece of new information saying that on a special day, I find we connect to the energy of the earth. And so with the ley lines, we're able to use that energy to either transport ourselves or just use it as transportation. Just the energy moves us. So I got something like that. And then I met my higher self, and she looked like kind of like a light skin, kind of like Native American woman, but yeah, she did the body scan and everything, and she's like, okay, you got your brain here because like you got a lot of work stuff and stress, and you got your fear and your doubts in your stomach, and you got your fear and your doubt, or your lack in your stomach and some fear and doubt in the lower back. So, and she was like giving me light in those energies. And again, I asked her, I was like, but how do I feel? How do I feel my power? And I'm forgetting a lot of what she said, but she's like, okay, well, you you know what, you have to change your perception, because once you change your perception, you're gonna see that power reflected outwards. So she said something like that, yes.
Wow. And like, do you remember what she was wearing, your higher self?
Yeah, some like a dress, like a beige dress. And she had like
Mm,
long black hair.
wow, okay. So you found out more information about the ley lines and how like you can like so do you feel like it's an energetic match to facilitate the transportation? Or
I don't know about energy because like I'm having some frustration with my guides because in another meditation or another BQH session, I asked them, why am I here? And they were like, we're not giving her that information right now.
mm-hmm.
But I've seen like when I've had these other meditations, I've seen like very like slight visions of like why I'm here. And so I feel like that's just related to the things I've seen before in other meditations.
Mm,
This one went a little bit beyond where I felt like there is, I know somebody has told me that that's the ley lines are like the energy something of the earth, but it's not just that. It's like you tap into the energy and you can use it. you can use it to move things. And I feel like I've heard that before. That's how like ancient civilizations moved things or whatever.
Oh
Or
yeah. Oh
Mm,
yeah. I've
right?
definitely heard that.
Yeah.
And that they were connected to each other.
Yeah, with the earth, with the like
Yeah.
special energy of the earth, and maybe that's it. So I got a little. They always give me little tiny hints. They don't give me the whole puzzle, but they're like, here you go, and now shut up, and then I'll see
yes.
you. I'll see you in a bit.
It's like pieces to the puzzle. They're like, here, you got a little now. Now we're gonna
Yeah,
give you a little bit more and a little bit more until you get the whole puzzle.
yeah.
Oh, I love that. And now, so for the body scan, like, can you share, like, what did that look like or feel like for you?
Well, I didn't. I feel like I saw it as like she was giving me light. It was like my vision was seeing me and her,
Mm-hmm.
and she was just giving me lights from her hand. She's like, okay, here in your head because you're stressed, your stomach because this is where I've had problems before with like my fear and my lag, and then I have
Mm-hmm.
like a back injury that I've
Yes.
had for a while. So it's like the typical stuff.
And when you asked, like, what will you notice differently? Do you remember what she said to you?
I know, I don't remember. I'm sorry. There's like a lot of things I try to get.
Oh, no, no worries. Um, all right. Now, so with the final messages, do you remember any of the messages at all?
Yeah, the final messages were like, okay, you have to change your perception
The
because
perception.
I feel like she was telling me things already because I've heard things before, like it's within you, it's in you. I was like, okay, yeah, I get it, but like make it real for me now, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like, okay, you have to change your perceptions. And once you do, you're gonna see your power reflected outside. So then you're gonna be able either you're gonna exercise it or you're gonna feel more confident to exercise it. Or
And
I think that's it.
and do you feel like you know what that perception is that you need to adjust?
Mm, yeah, I think they've told me this before. I think it's like my guides have said she has to believe. I was like, "Ugh," but it's hard. That's the hard part because I have a false belief
Mm-hmm.
that um I have a false belief that I feel limits me. So
Yes.
there's that.
Mm-hmm. But it's so good that, you're doing things like this that helps validate your experiences so that you can be sure and really secure in your own power and your own intuition as well, and truly embody that power that really is within you. It's just remembering and
Yeah.
embodying it. Like they say, fake it till you make it. So
Yeah.
sometimes it really is that, like just embodying that to the point where we truly, especially if it is a limited belief, imagine all the years of conditioning that put that limit on it. So if one way is to decondition yourself is to just, whether you feel it or not, just embody that power that you want to be in. Eventually, you know, you'll get there, whether it's through this, through affirmations, meditation. But that's really interesting. Now, do you guys have any final questions or anything that you want to add? I know that we were on for quite a while, and I know, honestly, Meg, you were saying earlier how you were tired. So I'm wondering if you, like, also because you were tired, your body was just like, and knocked you out.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it was full sleep just because I have had a long day, I'm tired, but also a mix of what Kathy said as well as like possibly just like not quite being ready
Remembering
for
it.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah, or being maybe even slightly protected from something because my questions were relating to something that does bring me great sadness and pain still. And
Mm-hmm.
so maybe just reverting back to what that first message was about finding the joy in the silliness. Maybe that's just kind of
Definitely.
where I'm at this point.
And usually too, like I will say, from my experience of doing these sessions,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to inner child healing. That's actually very there's a lot of times a safety measure that your ego can do is to block memories also. And and sometimes in a session like that, it can be very like deep and a lot to unpack, and maybe, it would be best to have like a personal session where it could be just one-on-one, and I can engage with you as you are going through,
Yeah.
ask you the questions. And if for any reason you don't recall, at least you have the recording of your responses. But I definitely do think that maybe that could be something that you might want to do. Um, but I also, like, I really appreciate you joining today, and I really hope, even though, you know, um, you couldn't really do the last one, I really hope that you had a great experience and found a lot of value and a lot of understanding today, and just remembering that that window is still open for the next 3 days.
Oh, for sure. I got so much out of this. It was really, really lovely. Thank you so much.
No, my pleasure. My absolute pleasure. I definitely would love to do this again. So if you guys really liked it, I will let you girls know, and I would love to see you girls again. And again, if you guys do want a one-on-one session, I would love to help also. Feel free to let me know, reach out to me, and I will help you out. So if this is something you really want to do, just let me know, okay? Thank you again, everyone, for coming on tonight. And I hope that you have an amazing night, and just pay attention to the synchronicities that are about to happen, to the dreams you're about to have, and be open for just a new chapter in your life to occur. All right. Thank you
Thank
again,
you
and have
so
a good
much.
night.
Thank you,
You're
Aviana.
welcome.